It's small, it's Swedish, it's a Volvo EX30. Yes, it's pretty cool looking. I'm really falling in love with this thing already, and I reckon it could be the coolest thing Sweden's made since, well, that rotten fish in a can. As for price and range, this model will set you back 79 grand, and there is a cheaper version I'll get to in a sec, but for that you get 462 Ks out of a charge, and it's surprisingly zippy even with just one motor, as you're about to find out. Let's start by talking about motor power, and this vehicle is propelled by a 200 kilowatt motor driving the rear wheels with 343 torquing Isaacs. It's a fair amount of torque, and it's a good thing it's rear wheel drive because that amount of power and torque, it just wouldn't work as a front wheel drive. As I mentioned, the car is fairly peppy. 0 to 100 time is 5.3 seconds, and that's pretty impressive when you consider just 20 years ago, to get that sort of time, you'd have a car like a 12-cylinder Aston Martin DB7. Well, not anymore. You can now get that sort of power just from a small watermelon-sized electric motor. Just shows you how much more impressive electric power is. And this isn't even the high-performance model. There's a dual-motor version you can get, which costs a bit more, but it has a 0 to 100 time of 3.6 seconds, which is getting into supercar territory in a car that just looks so unassuming. It's insane. And there's also a cheaper version that I mentioned at the start that you can save $4,000 by buying what is basically the same car. Same battery, same motor, it's just got a few less gadgets. As for the battery pack powering this car, it has a 69 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is NMC chemistry. Supposedly lets it get 462 Ks per charge. We'll see how accurate that is, but overall in the city, this is a very punchy little car, even though this is just the economy model. This is the single motor long range version. This is like Aston Martin power in what is just a little shopping trolley for sensible people to go to pack and save. It's also got one pedal driving, which I'm gonna test right now by pushing that button. Let's see how good it is. By taking my foot off the accelerator, it's gonna convert that braking energy that would have been wasted into battery power, putting it back into the battery. Okay, it's all right, but it's not epic. Will it bring me to a complete stop? Yes, at least it's got that going for it. Let's talk comfort now, and unlike most things you buy from Sweden these days, this you don't have to assemble yourself, it comes ready-made. Let's start with the seats. It has seated heats in both the front driver's and the passenger seat. It also has fully adjustable seats. Both driver and passenger are adjustable. This one, however, has four-way lumbar support, which can be controlled using the button down here. It also has the option of an air scrubber, an air purifier that you can switch on before you get to the car. So it'll remove all the nasty toxins, all the petrochemical exhaust and all that stuff out of the car before you get there. The only downside is it's operated through the mobile app, which doesn't have that function yet, but it is coming. There's a whole bunch of stuff in the Volvo app that is coming for this car that may not work just yet. As for seat height, it has a predictable 68 centimeters when the seat's at its lowest setting from the ground to the front lip, which means that getting in and out is pretty easy. It's effortless to climb in and out of this thing because the car does sit slightly higher off the ground. Tell you what though, driving this thing is interesting because the tires are big, they're also wide, and the steering feels really connected. Every single little movement translates into a direction change in the car, and that makes the car feel very responsive and feel very sporty, which could make me do stupid things. Let's move on to space though, and there's heaps of room in this car. I'm 5'10" and there's still bucket loads of room above my head. If you're 6 feet tall, you could easily fit in this car. However, the same cannot be said for backseat passengers. It is snug back there. There's not a lot of leg room. There's a fair amount of headroom though, as long as you don't bang your head into that massive pillar right there. Now that we're stopped, I can tell you about the features this car doesn't have. It does not have a glove box. There's nothing there. It's empty apparently on the inside, but it does have something I can control by pushing this button right here. Check that out! It's got an actual center console, which I look forward to filling with potatoes very soon. There's also storage here on the center console. By pushing this button, look at that. The entire center console and cup holders fold out, and you can separate them like that. That's neat. There's also a little bit of storage down here by the floor in the center console. If you lift up these flaps here, look at that. You've got an entire tray and access to the USB charging ports. Plus, on the back side, the back side of the center console, there is a removable tray which has meese on the side. Is that the plural for mooses? Meese? Continuing on the subject of storage, there is a fartment. If you pop the bonnet, you will see a front compartment, but it is microscopic, and there's varying accounts of just how big this thing is. I've seen that some people say it's 7 liters in capacity, some say it's 13, some say it's 27. Heading to the back of the car, the boot has a reasonable amount of room back there. It has a false floor, which you can remove to reveal reveal even more storage space, which leaves just enough room for a pasty potato enthusiast to climb in there and hit his elbow. Plus, if you fold the seats down, you suddenly get 904 litres of storage capacity, which is not quite enough to lie down in. But if you're worried about how much stuff you can fit in there, there's actually a handy little embossed plastic guide there on the underside of the boot lid. It's kind of neat. Let's move on to gadgets now as a fire truck goes past us. And this car has a 9-speaker Harman Kardon sound system. And what's interesting about it is that just like your TV from 2016, it has a brand new sound bar right here across the windscreen. There are 5 speakers encased in that fabric-coated sound bar. Plus, in the back, there is also a hidden subwoofer to give you a bit more doof-doof. Now, it has electric windows, which I wouldn't normally cover because, let's just face it, every car's got electric windows now, but the electric windows in the front, well, there's nothing on the door, there's no buttons there. You control them by the buttons here, which I can operate without taking my eyes off the road. But if I want to open the back windows, I have to take my eyes off the road to open them up, which is kind of annoying. As for wireless phone charging, it's got it right down here in front of the driver. It's a convenient location, and if you push your phone further down, it sort of softly locks it into place. That's smart. As for Android and Apple connectivity, it has androgynous auto built in, but it doesn't yet have Apple CarPlay. However, that is coming soon via the over-the-air software update. Yes, this car gets over-the-air updates. It will only improve with time. Plus, because this entire car runs on Android Automotive, it means that you can load it up on your Google account and add apps into your car, like Spotify, for example, and maybe even Tinder in the future. Plus, because this car has 4 years of data, unlimited data, your Spotify, your YouTube, your streaming, it's all covered. For 4 years, go nuts. Because it's Android, it also has Google Maps built in as standard, which is, as we all know, the best map system. However, because it is fixed, it doesn't spin like in a BYD car. It means the screen is always going to be upright, kind of like a cell phone. Another downside to that vertical screen is that when you go into reverse and it brings up the 3D camera system, it's sort of, in my opinion, kind of squashed how they've got everything jammed into one screen. I think you could have more flexibility if it was horizontally positioned, but still, the reversing definition is pretty good. Although one thing this vehicle doesn't have is a centrally mounted dashboard to tell you your speed, or a heads-up display. So just like a Tesla, you're going to be moving your eyes slightly to the corner of the screen to see what speed you're doing. Now that personally is not an issue. Some people don't like that, I don't mind. Unlike a Tesla though, this retains indicators and wipers, thank heavens. Plus, like a Tesla, a lot of the components here, because it's all Android, are voice controlled. For example, increase cabin temperature.
Sure, turning up the temperature by 2 degrees.
Can I increase the volume? No, that's, oh, I just turned on something. Oh no, I just turned on the cruise control. Turn off cruise control.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Oh, that you can't do. Let's move on to safety, which is a pretty boring subject. I don't normally go into too much detail because you all start falling asleep. It's a Volvo. Of course it's safe. It's got rear collision alert. It's got mitigation to stop you hitting someone or going off the road, or it swerves away from oncoming traffic. It's a Volvo. It's got more airbags than there are politicians in Parliament. You know the drill. It's stupidly safe. It's also fairly efficient. We'll get to driving efficiency later, but right now I can tell you it has a heat pump built in, which means that you're going to maximize your range in winter when heating and in summer when cooling. Let's move on to design now, and looking at the exterior, it is very much a Volvo. I don't quite know what to make of it. Is it an SUV or a hatchback or a crossover? It's one of those cars that is all things, but looking at those double tail light clusters, it's definitely Volvo-esque. They've gone a bit playful. Same goes with the front headlights. It's sort of that Thor's hammer thing going on there. And as with electric cars, a lot of the time they don't quite know what to do at the front because there's no need for a grille in most cases. So Volvo have decided just to seal the whole thing up, and it looks all right. As for wheels, normally on this model, the single motor extended range, you get 19-inch wheels, but for whatever reason, the dealer has put 20-inch wheels on these. Now those are not yet available for you to order if you want to get this version with the 20-inch wheels. Also, it comes with, as well as the Harden Kardon system, it comes with this massive panoramic glass display. And my only complaint would be that in summer, I reckon this car is gonna cook. Let's move on to the interior though, which is kind of pale bluish gray with hints of dark. It's a bit of a mishmash, and I quite like it because it's different. Anything that's not just black and grey, I like, so this gets my tick of approval. But if you don't find it to your liking, it has ambient lighting, which you can control and change. It's got themes as well. You select different themes, and it plays different tunes depending on what theme you go with. So I'm going to choose this sort of Aurora Borealis. Or should that be Aurora Australis? Actually, as for those seats, I think in summer you might be alright. Despite that black glass roof making the car roast like a Swedish sauna, which is maybe intentional, I think these seats, they're going to reflect a lot of the light, so it's not going to be bad like sitting on black vinyl. The seats are also kind of minimalist and firm on the base part where your bum sits, but the back is much softer, and I think that's to do with this Pixel Knit and Nordico fabric, which is largely recycled materials, and it's actually really quite comfy. There's also really good side bolsters when you're going around tight city corners. The lateral movement in these seats is really excellent. I'm paying attention to Volvo. Yes, it's got a safety thing, these little infrared sensors behind the steering wheel, which are monitoring me constantly. And if I'm looking at the camera too much, it will tell me off. So yeah, maybe I should stop looking at the camera. As for the rest of the interior, Volvo's gone hard out with sustainability, which I really love. Like these door panels here, this sort of speckled effect, that is largely made from recycled PVC window frames, which is strangely specific. Even the carpet on the floors, the floor mats themselves, are made largely from recycled fishnet stockings, or fishnets, one of the two. Yeah, most likely fishnets. In fact, this car is a testament to Sweden's recyclability, because Sweden recycles so much of their waste that only 1% goes to landfill in Sweden. It's insane. They've got so much empty recycling space, they import trash from other countries, much like my Tinder dating history. In fact, Volvo's taken the same approach with creating these cars. It's really, really admirable. I know this sounds like an advertisement, but it's very impressive that they've made this car with such a low carbon footprint. The total carbon footprint for this car's creation is less than a round the world trip. Well, take a couple of round the world trips. But enough about carbon footprints and recycling. Let's put this thing on the motorway, see how it drives. And we are off on a road trip. My destination is New Plymouth for a big electric car event, which you're going to see soon. It is a distance of 162 kilometres, 2 hours and 15 minutes to get there, which is, incidentally, the exact same time as The Matrix, the movie. But unlike The Matrix, there are no red or blue pills to swallow. This is the glorious reality we're living in. And unlike The Matrix, the budget for this video is microscopic. So yeah, I need your help. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, give these videos a chance. Okay, but now if I were going to hit the highway, I'd turn on the adaptive cruise, which you can't really use on the open roads. It's suited best for the motorways, and I used it on Auckland motorway and it works really well. It's fairly responsive, the car slams the brakes on and it keeps you safe. It's generally a pretty decent system. I'd be pretty comfortable to drive that long distance. But now that we're in the countryside, I just quickly want to touch on the suspension system, which is quite firm. So it means you do feel quite a few of the bumps on New Zealand's more interactive roads. I think that's the polite way of saying not very good. However, it masks the fact that it's quite a heavy car with its big battery pack quite well. So it's only in some really undulating terrain do you feel the mass of the car coming through. But with those nice big, oh look at that, those nice big tyres on the back, you can chuck it into just about any corner, like this one, and it will come out the other side. Oh, this is fantastic. If you do like having fun in the corners, you're gonna like this car. It's brilliant, but I should point out it's not perfect, and I have compiled a list of things I've discovered over the last few days that I don't like about it, which I will explain when we get to New Plymouth, which, through the magic of editing, will happen with a click of my fingers. And welcome to New Plymouth. We've made it. The journey was not bad, comfortable. Okay, now let's talk about the things that I don't really love about the car, starting with the remote control. It has no buttons because the idea is you walk up to the car and it will detect you and open up the driver's door. And not only that, sometimes if you sneak up on the car, it's not ready for you and it doesn't identify you. You've got to stand there pulling the handle like mad, hoping for it to open. Speaking of no buttons, let's talk about the glove box. While you're driving, sometimes it can be hard to hit the button to open up the glove box. You want to get your sunglasses, for example, and if I do it, yeah, no, oh, no, I just turned on the, where is it? There we go. Yeah, I turned on the defroster by mistake. Oh, not only that, as soon as you turn on the defroster or turn the air conditioning off or turn it to auto or manual, it opens up the front vent, so it sucks in the outside air. And let's be honest, New Zealand still has a lot of dirty diesel. I've been stuck behind quite a few on this journey, and it keeps bringing in that carcinogenic diesel smoke from outside, and you don't want your kids breathing that stuff in. So Volvo, please make recirculation stay on no matter what I do to the air conditioning. Oh, and speaking of doors, you're going to want to slam the doors on this car because it is as airtight as a Tupperware container, which means that sometimes if you just casually close the door, it won't always close. So put some effort into it. One thing I love though is the sound system in this car. That sound bar at the front, the Harman Kardon system, is brilliant. It's got a lot of mid-range and high-end sound, so you hear things like cymbals and vocals brilliantly. It's also got a reasonable amount of bass from the subwoofer, but it doesn't have a lot of lower mid-range, especially when you're on a loud coarse chip road. So things like the lower end of a piano, you won't hear that as loudly, but it does have an option that you can turn up the mid-range frequencies, and that's pretty good. But what about efficiency? Well, that's kind of important. Let's go find the efficiency tab, if I can find it. That's another complaint I have, is that this is a very busy little screen, so trying to find everything's not as easy as you might think. So we are looking at, since the last recharge, my average has been 16.4 kilowatt hours per 100k. That's not too bad considering I've done mostly highway driving and it's been pretty enthusiastic. But the most important thing about this trip is that this car has been charged using Ecotricity electricity. And if you've seen a program called The News, you're gonna want to join the good fight against climate change. And one way you can do it is by going to ecotricity.co.nz, switch your house, your business, your car over to clean, renewable, climate-positive electricity. Ecotricity is New Zealand's only certified climate-positive supplier. Yep, so join the good fight, save some cash, make a positive impact for your kids and their kids at ecotricity.co.nz. But now we're in New Plymouth, the hard part's done. Let's head to Eletricarna in the morning and see what the turnout's like. Welcome to Eletricarna 2024. The Volvo has got a reasonable amount of attention, as I thought it would, but that's not the only car on display. We've got cars like this DS behind me, which has a bizarre interior and CHAdeMO socket. That's something for the nerds. There's also Teslas. There's the new Highland model here. There's the Mark E GT, of course. There's also the BYDs. There's the Dolphin. There's the Atto 3. And then there's the Seal. There's even, check this out, it's Hulk. Yes, it's the famous green Hulk towing a Land Cruiser. Now, that's a metaphor like never before. And also behind me is, check this out, an electric motorcycle, which, as you're about to hear, is a bit grunty. They've even got these recumbent bikes, which I've never used before, so what could possibly go wrong? Yeah. Oh, crikey. Oh, far out. All right. Oh, this is wicked. Hang on. Oh, I got one wheel off the ground. Oh, Jesus. Okay, I should point out that I drove like an idiot on purpose. These things are actually really stable if you're a normal human being. Changing direction, we have behind me Nissan Ariya, a surprisingly comfortable car. But let's head back down to the Volvo to see how much attention it's getting. And the Volvo was turning out to be a bit of an attention grabber, with many folks interested in the recycled PVC dashboard. One person said it reminded them of a urinal cake, which is my least favourite cake, almost as bad as fondant, while another said it looks like that Ice House album from 1984. The car grabbed a lot of attention at the event, and it's got more pros than cons, so with that, let's do the Spudscore, starting with performance. And even though this isn't the performance model, this thing moves, easily getting 7 out of 10 spuds. Handling's next, and it gets 8 potatoes. It loves the corners, and city and country roads it really rewards the driver. As for comfort, it's quite a firm ride, much like a Tesla Model 3, so if you want a small, softer cruiser, check out the BYD Dolphin long range. It's got similar performance, but prioritizes softness over cornering. Also, rear legroom in the back of the EX30 is snug, especially if you're 6'6" like Ron from Hecatron, who I managed to convince to squeeze in there, so I'm giving it 5 spuds. Efficiency's next, and I'm giving it 6 potatoes, as it's not the most efficient EV out there, but even though I drove it hard, I still easily beat the official figures, so you'll likely get around 400 Ks per charge in most conditions. But what about gadgetry? Well, it's got a lot of toys, the stereo is brilliant, you can load Android apps onto it, and it gets over-the-air software updates, but it doesn't have a vehicle to load adapter, and the screen glitched on me one morning, although it didn't affect driving, and it soon fixed itself, so I'm giving it 6 spuds. Value's next, and considering its incredible engineering and low manufacturing carbon output, it's great value, especially if you understand the importance of tackling climate change, but it's still not the cheapest small EV out there, so I'm giving it 5 spuds. Charging's next, and it gets reasonably good speeds, as you can see, charging it to 80% on a hyper rapid charger from ChargeNet. This makes it a good road trip car, so I'm giving it 7 spuds. As for style, I like the way the entire car is designed to flow downwards from the rear to the front. It's a good overall looking machine. I'm giving it 7 spuds for being a little bit bold. But is it fit for purpose? Well, I'm gonna say, yeah, reasonably. The rear seats are best suited for kids or regular height adults, though the fartment up the front and the stowable rear floor and parcel shelf are pretty smart. As for towing, it doesn't have a rating in New Zealand just yet, but in overseas markets, the all-wheel drive version can tow up to 1,600 kilos of braked load, so it might just be able to tow the boat in the weekends. We'll find out soon enough, so 6 spuds there. And lastly is the all-important PSC, and the EX30 holds 49 tubers, which isn't a lot, but it is impressive when you consider it doesn't have much of a glove box, so it gets 6 spuds there, bringing the total spud score to 63. Which in my opinion is far too low a spud score for what is an outrageously fun car to drive, and it brings into question the entire Spudscore system, which is a frightening thought. Now I'll let you in on a little secret. The most entertaining car reviews are the ones that have cars with quirks and flaws, and this car really doesn't have very many of them. It's very sensible, it's very Swedish, which is ironic because it's based on a Chinese Geely platform. Despite that, based on my hair colour alone, you can tell that I was largely born without a soul, unfortunately. But somehow, this car still manages to fuel what's left of my soul. And it makes me wonder what on earth the all-wheel drive version will be like. Well, we're going to find out soon enough. Hit the subscribe button, it's coming soon.